Thanks for coming today. We're really excited to share what we've been working on here at Rosewater. It's something that we've been tangibly meeting and working for about a year now, but I know that it's been part of Nate's intentions with the land for quite a while. So we're excited to share some information about it and hopefully get some more folks involved. All right, so here's a quick little agenda for what we're going over today. I'm going to do a quick introduction to who we are and what we do at Rosewater Ranch. We're going to have Rachel go over the details of eco-villages and co-housing. Kayla's going to get into our vision. We're going to have Nate look at the village schematic and project timeline. Zach is going to go over finances, and then I'm going to come back for a conclusion, and then we'll do a Q&A after. So if you're here today, I'm sure you're a little familiar with our project and what we've been working on. But just a little bit about it to start is that we are working on building a small village up at Rosewater Ranch. We're calling it a co-housing eco-village, and we're looking for more prospective residents to join our project and get it built and planned and have people move into it at the end. And so this is a view of of Long Valley, looking out from the main house, which is where most of the residents at the ranch currently live. Yeah, like right in the middle. Yeah.
If you could move up, maybe it's up to you.
Yeah, feel free to move closer if you want.
Here, I'll skip for you.
Thank you. All right, we have 10 residents currently living on the land. We have 8 adults, an infant, and a baby. And this is the view looking into Long Valley, and this is from the main house. You're good. So along with the main house, we have a few other pieces of infrastructure on the land. We have a barn, which you can maybe see on the left. And we have an Art Cobb studio that was built with a natural buildings course a few years ago. And we also have many gardens on the land as well. You're good to click. We have a really beautiful herd of goats on the land. We had about 30 goats up until a couple months ago, and now we've had 13 babies born this spring. So the herd has grown substantially, and there's a lot of life going on right now. And we breed them every year for milk, and we get some meat from the herd every year as well. And we have some chickens too. We have a flock of chickens that we just got. We also just got a new shipment of babies as well, so we're adding some new genetics to the land as well. And we, up until very recently, had 2 pigs, Gertrude and Biggie, on the land, and we look forward to potentially more pigs in the future and potentially some other animals as well. And we have some barn cats, and we also have 2 livestock guardian dogs. This is Yampa here on the right, and they help protect the animals from some of the wildlife that comes through the land. Like this bobcat here. Yeah, a lot of what we do and what our life revolves around at Rosewater is homesteading or subsistence agriculture, which is, growing the food that you grow in your garden, and the animals that you raise is what feeds you and fuels you to keep working on the land. And so we have that as a big, important piece in our lives, and it will be a future big piece for the village as well. All right, so Rosewater Ranch, if you're not aware, is located about 30 minutes north of Reno. So it's north on 395, off at the border town exit, and down a dirt road into Long Valley. We're about 4 miles down the dirt road. We are the southernmost property before you get into Humboldt-Tiobe National Forest. So you do have some forest on the property, which is really sweet. The property itself is 135 acres. And along with the homesteading that we do on the land, we also have a variety of commercial ventures as well. So we have Prema Farm, which is a small organic vegetable farm that's just down the hill from the main road, or from the main house that I work at. We have Lope and Coyote Farms, which is started by Nate. We have the founders and owners of Beloved's Bread, Zach and Kayla, on the land. And we also have Mountain Mushrooms, which is a culinary organic mushroom farm, which is run by Nate and Rachel. That's it for me for now. I'm going to give it over to Rachel, and she's going to talk about co-housing and eco-villages.
Kayla, you want to pass that?
Thank you.
Yay, babies.
Hey, guys.
My name is Rachel Jesse. I've been living and working at Rosewater Ranch for 5 years. Prior to that, I was co-managing a farm and curating an artist residency in Morocco. However, historically, by trade, I'm a contemporary classical dancer and fire performer. So I dramatically changed my life about 8 years ago from living in cities to growing food. Additionally, I have a degree in environmental science and sustainability. So first, I'm going to talk real quick about why these alternative living models are so important right now. And this is baby Tatum. So over half of the world lives in cities. Cities contribute to over 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions. I don't think she likes this mic. Single-family homes in the United States consume 3 times the amount of resources as do communal living establishments, especially if you consider ones that use on-site renewable energy, passive architecture, and that grow their own food. So overall, in the vast majority of the urban and suburban landscape, there's no life between the dwellings, amounting to some wasted space and a heck of a lot of lost opportunity for connecting with one another and the land. So what we need are more thoughtfully designed communities that are resilient to environmental, social, and economic pressures of the world around us. Okay, so done with the dirty part. What's co-housing? Well, co-housing is a model that largely comes from Denmark, where today about 80% of their population lives in a kind of co-housing community. The term co-housing, however, was coined by architect and co-housing specialist Chuck Durrett, who studied for many years in Denmark and has built over 60 co-housing communities in the United States. And although he's not with us here today, we are fortunate enough to have him on our team. Yes, he's still alive. So these are intentionally designed communities with private homes and a common house oriented around several common spaces. Additionally, there are no vehicles within the community. I'll also note that co-housing exists primarily in urban areas. So common spaces include paths, walkways, courtyards, gardens, the common house, which has a large kitchen and dining area. It also has usually a laundry area and can have other spaces and amenities like a workshop, a children's playroom, a yoga fitness studio, office, library, etc., depending on the needs and preferences of the community. Residents share tools, equipment, and resources, and participation is key. So this intentional participatory design is created not just for efficiency, but for cultural connection, a sense of purpose, belonging, accountability. So in these little tiny photos here that I know you can't see, these are connected homes whose front doors are all facing inward towards a common path. And this is specifically designed to increase the frequency of interaction between neighbors. The distance between front door to front door, from front door to pathway, are also specifically designed to maintain the balance between increased interaction, but also personal space and privacy. And this is just one of the functional designs of the co-housing model. So then what is an eco-village? Well, an eco-village has many similarities to co-housing. They are typically in rural areas because, as the name eco-village implies, they engage in a lot of land-based activities like farming and land stewardship. There's typically on-site renewable energy, and they take careful consideration in the choice of materials used to construct the village. They usually have small on-site land-based businesses, and depending on the size of the community, can also have on-site childcare, schooling, respite care, and other awesome amenities of village life. So overall, there is a ton of life happening outside and between the dwellings. You can flip through the next few slides. There are eco-villages all around the world. They look very different depending on where you go, but they all have the common thread that they are engaged in community and sustainability. You can keep flipping through. You'll eventually get to some slides that'll show some examples of some of the commodities that might come out of an eco-village, either for the subsistence of the community or as a business. There is many anthropologists, environmentalists, and economists that are now suggesting that the world move toward an eco-village model, even within cities, in order to create more resilience against climate change, to create better food security and social stability. Ultimately, for us though, creating this co-housing eco-village is an extension of ourselves and what we love, and we're trying to reach the critical mass of people necessary to do it effectively and to have something really robust to pass on to future generations to come. So that's my little bit. I'm going to pass it on to Miss Kayla Alexander, and she is going to go over our vision for you guys.
What up, y'all? Sorry to our visual learners out there. I am a visual learner, so I feel you if you're feeling like, what are you talking about? So my name is Kayla. I'm really grateful to be here and see some friends and new faces. I first came to Rosewater in 2019 when I started working at Prema Farm, and I just fell in love with the land, with the people, and my current partner, Zach, this hot damn piece. And 3 years ago, we bought a tiny house on the land, and so just watching this come to life has been a dream come true. I'm going to be talking today about our vision and our vision for this eco-village and really how we plan to embody our values with directed action. So there would be a nice picture of 5 different facets of our vision, but all 5 of these came from a time of personal reflection that we all had of just feeling into what is our personal narrative for this land, and how do we imagine living our lives here, what do we not want to see happen here, and from that we found some common threads, 5 of them. The first of which is living in community. The second is regenerative agriculture. The third is land stewardship. The fourth is education, and the 5th is events. So I'm going to talk briefly about all of those and how we imagine those contributing to life in the village. And we really feel like our vision is our beacon for us as a collective, so that together we have these different aspirations that are connecting us into a sense of belonging and shared purpose. And before I talk about them, I just want to note that even if some of these are not things that you yourself are really interested in or already rooted in, that we need all different kinds of people and different kinds of roles, just like anywhere with anything, to make it happen. So the first is living as community. So this is the first part of our vision, and we fundamentally are seeing that we need one another and that we want one another in our lives, and we are envisioning a space that is really fostering of belonging and connection and participation. We imagine, we live in a time where in some ways we're more connected than ever than we have been with the technology that we have. But in the same breath, we also are more isolated and hyper-individualistic than we have been ever before. We're less connected to the people around us. And so Nate is going to talk about, after me, about the actual structure and how it's conducive for having our own private homes, our own sense of privacy, but having community right at our doorstep, and having these interactions that are bringing our life richness, raising children together, sharing meals, growing old. The last part about living in community is just this acknowledgement that we can do so little as one individual person.
And we have such a short time on this precious earth that is in the face of more chaos and destruction than we have ever seen before. And a lot of our vision has a lot of lofty ideals that are kind of like right into the resistance of things that are happening on planet Earth right now. And we acknowledge that we can't do that alone, and we need one another. The next part of our vision is regenerative agriculture. And regenerative agriculture is really focusing on soil health, water health, the resilience of our seeds, and really being in a co-creative process with the earth around growing food and the way that we are taking care of ourselves. So currently on the land, you would see some beautiful pictures of our cornfield and our medicinal gardens and our main house garden. We have currently 4 acres developed of both houses and agricultural developments, and we are growing a ton of fruits and medicines and vegetables and dye plants, as well as staple crops such as corn, beans, potatoes. And part of our vision is wanting to see that go further for us as a community. So living at Rosewater Ranch Eco Village, we hope to shift the percentage of food that all of us are having to buy at the grocery store every week, to feel more connected to the ground beneath our feet and to co-create together in what it is to grow and feed our children and to feed ourselves. Alongside that, we also have 2 commercial projects currently on the land. We have Prema Farm, which is really a way shower for our area of what it is to grow food regeneratively. Cass here has been there for over 5 years, I think. And yeah, shout out to young farmers. Give it up to the young farmers. And yeah, in an acre and a half on Rosewater Ranch currently, Prema Farm has been there since 2016, using 100% no-till practices. So this is without the use of big industrial agricultural equipment. They're using no-till methods, so much of it is done by hand. And yeah, they are just showing what's possible at our high altitude of what it is to grow beautiful, nutrient-dense food. And what else did I want to say about them? Yeah, if you've ever been out there and sunk your hands into the soil, like the way that they have regenerated the topsoil and the plentifulness of earthworms are really in alignment with how we see the direction of also our homestead gardens going. In addition to Prema Farm, we have mountain mushrooms on the property, which Nate and Rachel, and there's a cute picture of Ona, maybe you'll see later. And they are growing 100% organic gourmet edible mushrooms. And they're really showing that with a small square footage, you know, they're making their livelihoods for themselves, feeding the community beautiful food, having purpose-filled work. And they're making all their own grain bags, and from those grain bags that are spent, we are composting those and putting them into our garden beds. And so with the vision of regenerative agriculture on the lands, we have one aspect of wanting to grow food for ourselves on the community, and then another aspect of there being a lot of opportunity for people that have commercial inspirations, want to have a livelihood out on the land. We could see things like cattle being raised out there, pigs, poultry, fiber animals, and yeah, a whole other array of things that you could imagine. The next part of our vision is land stewardship. There's a really cool video. We'll probably post this somewhere after so you guys can all like look through it. But currently Rosewater Ranch is on 135 acres, of which only 4 are developed currently. And we are committing that never more than 10% of the land ever be developed. And the other 90% we are going to protect and honor through water restoration, tree planting, restoring native plant species, as well as fire management on the land. And you know, I think a lot of people say, like, I want to live off the land, and I feel like that's kind of in the regenerative agriculture piece where we want to live off the land and get what we want from the land. But we as a collective don't only want to live off the land, we want to live for the land. We want to protect it for future generations. And we really imagine getting put into a land trust. This has been something that Nate has been trying to do for years. We may end up making our own so that these 90%, the 90% of the land remains undeveloped and protected for future generations and all the wild ones that also call Rosewater Ranch home. The next piece of our vision is education. So we're down to the last two. We did living in community, regenerative agriculture, and land stewardship. Now we're on to education. And we really imagine that outside of the structure of where we're going to be living, that there will be room for a wide variety of educational offerings to be happening on the land. Just within this group of 5, we have artisan bread bakers, cheese makers, farmers, closed loop systems, female health. And so we really imagine having some spaces outside of where we're living to host educational offerings. Currently, there's a large single-family home on the house where 6 adults and 2 children live. And once this project is built, we imagine vacating that and having that as a place to host a variety of educational workshops. We also can imagine an alternative type of school for children that are being raised on the land as well happening. And we really imagine education as a way that we can make ourselves more available to a wider community, continue to grow our own resourcefulness, and stay resilient in this ever-changing world, as well as just having a platform for other educators and facilitators to come and share a variety of skills. And again, just to emphasize, this would happen outside of the privacy of where we live, but would be happening on the land, bringing life onto the land. And this, as well as events, are 2 ways that we see being able to generate revenue for the upkeep of costs that it will take to sustain life in the village. So lastly is events. So we envision that this space is going to be really suitable for events, both with people that are living within the, keep going. Both with people that are living within the eco-village and then also people that want to come in and rent. So things like an occasional wedding, farm-to-table meals, single-day events, retreats, and small gatherings could also all be potentials that we imagine happening. And again, just imagining this as a space that will foster life both within our community on the land and to serve a wider community of people, as well as bringing in the necessary resources that it will take to upkeep life on the land. So yeah, we need all different types of people to collaborate on this vision. These are just 5 different umbrellas with probably 1,000 micro umbrellas in each of them. And yeah, this is the way we're going to put our values into action and create a community that is flourishing for both us and our wider community. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm going to pass it off to Nate, who's going to be talking about the schematics. I wish you could see all these epic pictures we've been working on, but I'm sure he'll do great.
Thanks, Kayla. Okay, my name is Nate. I started this mess about 10 years ago, moving onto the land here that we now call Rosewater. And this was basically the reason that I did that, was to get to this point, to be able to build something like this with a bunch of folk. So we've been slowly walking that way for 10 years, and it just feels right that we're now able to talk about it with some idea of what it could look like. So this is exciting, so thanks for being here. And it's an honor to be up on stage with these beautiful people and to have this bigger gelling momentum. So what we have been working on, which is really too bad that we can't show you right now, is a bunch of actual plans for what we want the space to look like, the built space particularly. But that's all right. We will have them later. You can check them on our website when we get them up there. But we have, so where we are is the end, we were the last residential property before you head up into the mountains, into National Forest, at the south end of Long Valley on the north side of Peavine Mountain. So it's a beautiful edge or border kind of property where we're right on the edge of the foothills. We've got some pines coming down, we've got some grassland and sagebrush steppe coming up, and we're right on that edge between them. We're right on the edge between the wild and the city. And to me, that's a beautiful thing, beautiful place to be for a lot of opportunity for lots of different things. More life happens on the edges of different ecosystems. So that gives us lots of options. And you can go forward. Yeah, there's a slide here that shows just the kind of the expanse of the National Forest behind us, which makes it feel like a huge place to be. You can keep going. So on our property, we have, it's a lot of hill. There's just one small area where there's really nice soil. Two small areas. One of them is where Prema is. And then there's one other area where all of our homesteading can happen. And then we have a lot of not great soil, which is a good place to build. So we have a couple good places to build within that. And right now we have focused on one spot that kind of intuitively seems like the place to be, which is up above our current residence, kind of towards the top of the property. And it's a little shelf there. It's not very big. It's a total of about 2 acres that we would have to build on, and which is great because that forces us to build very close together and keep the majority of our land open. And so the vision, we have a nice concept plan here that you can't see, but you can keep going a little bit. Go another one. Yeah, there's our little concept plan. And what it is a series of 6 triplexes. And this was at the recommendation of Chuck Durrett, who Rachel referenced earlier, who did a site visit and spent a weekend with us this winter. And he was like, this is what I see for you guys, for your community. He's a big fan of attached housing for a number of reasons. Partly it's cheaper to build, and which is a big deal right there. And it's also, of course, retains the most area functional or open, not built on. And then you also get the maximum amount of R value for your walls, because that wall that you share with somebody else, he likes to call infinite R value. It's also the best sound insulation between you and your neighbor, instead of 2 open windows that are near each other where it sounds like you're in the same room. It's actually a solid wall. It also creates the most connection between people. So triplexes he likes for that reason. And 6 triplexes makes 18 homes. So that's what we were looking at for what we think our land carrying capacity is. And each triplex would be the same design, is how we're looking at it right now. So it would be a repeating pattern of 6 triplexes. And this is also to save cost on the front end for designing, for engineering and architecture, and then also in the construction. It's easier to build. Besides that space, there's also a big common house between all of those structures, and it's right in the middle, basically, so that we're all kind of centered around the common house. And it is much bigger than any of the private dwellings, and it makes your smaller private dwelling feel huge because it functions as an extension of all of our private houses. And we have and they call it the heart of the community in co-housing. And they kind of, some communities will track how many hours people put in there to kind of get a sense of the health of the community. So there will be, in the heart of the common house is a dining area, which is sized to accommodate exactly our size community, with a nice big kitchen there where we will have shared meals happening on a regular basis that nobody is required to go to but are optional, and Zach will get into a little bit of the economics behind that. And then besides that, we will also, because we already did a floor plan for our common house, which is kind of the first thing they do in the common house design as far as floor plans. And from there, then you go and do your private dwellings once you see what your common house has. Which is not set in stone at all. Everything is a participatory process in co-housing. So this is why we kind of basically hit our wall as a group. And so now we need to go out and get more people into our core group who want to carry on finishing up what we have started and figuring out how this is all going to look. But we have nonetheless started on some floor plans that we're functioning with right now. And our common house floor plan has a big craft room, which felt like a need for our community. And it has a big kids room. It has a couple guest rooms that everybody can use for people who stay at the ranch. It has a big library. It has a little office that we can all share. It has a laundry facility so that we don't all have laundry in our individual houses. And then we have a big outdoor space where we all can hang out. There's a kind of a big back deck / stage and a big lawn / playing field that's attached to that. It's the only piece of grass, but it'll be functional, high-use piece of grass. So then we went into looking at our private dwellings, and and this could change based on who our group ends up being in the end, but right now we felt like we needed 3 different options so that our triplex would have 3 different size homes in it. It would have a flat that's about 920 square foot-ish with 2 bedrooms, and then we'd have a 1,300 square foot-ish house with 3 bedrooms and a 1,600 square foot house with 4 bedrooms, so that we can accommodate different needs for people. And that array can certainly change based on who ends up showing up, but that's what we're working with right now. We do actually have a floor plan for what that could look like too. And then I gave that stuff to Rachel's father, Skip, who has decades in construction and design, and he made these 3D models of what it can all look like, which would be really cool if we could show you right now. But that's all right, and you can see them later. But it's pretty cool. We have some pretty cool renderings of what it all can look like, and it's a beautiful little collection. And some of the things that you would note if we were looking at it more closely would be there's one connected front porch across the 3 entryways on the triplex. So it's kind of a common front porch there. And then on the back end of each of those units, there's a private porch that each unit has. So and the front porches all face each other across a drivable walking path that goes between all the buildings, so that you can drive in and out when needed, but the cars will otherwise stay outside of our building area where we have a big carport that we will build. That you'll be kind of the first thing you hit as you come onto the land. And then the cars stop, and then you walk into the actual collection of dwellings. So, it's there's going to be little nodes also outside between the building where there's smaller gathering spaces, and a lot of this detail that we still haven't filled in completely. But there will be things like they say a sandbox is always a big attraction at one of the corners of our walking paths. And personally, I think we need a basketball hoop somewhere, but it's not on there yet somehow. But we'll get there. So what else can I say without looking at all of this right now? To me, this is going to nestle in really nicely on the hillside where we live, and not stick out much. And that's the goal, is to really kind of feel like we're nestled in on the side of the mountain here. So I think the last thing I want to get into without seeing the diagrams is to transition into talking about how for us it's also important what we build with, which isn't always the case in co-housing. A lot of times you're trying to do it as cheap as possible to make sure everybody can get in, so we're trying to figure out how to balance those concerns. But we have a history in and a love for natural building. And so that factors in for us in a big way in our values. So the best approach to how to do that in this scenario, as far as I can tell, as far as we can tell, is to build with straw bale. So that's our goal, is to do all of this out of straw bale. And there's a number of reasons for straw bale. Permitting wise, we can do this as a post and beam wood framed structure with straw bale walls infilled all around it, and it's just easy to get permission for that. Like that's not a weird thing in the county. So, and that's, besides which, it's really high functioning. The straw bale walls are really high functioning. They're thick walls, they're incredible insulation, they're very fire resistant. They have actually been passed through the mandatory lab tests to be a 1 hour fire resistant walls in order to which is required by code to separate multi-family units, the walls that separate those to keep fires from spreading from one unit to the other. They have that code there, and straw bale actually went over 2 hours with no problem. So they're well over the 1 hour minimum, especially when you then add on like an inch or more of clay plaster on top of those bales. They're very fire resistant for internal and external walls. The thick walls are really cozy. They make a lot of nice window seats. It's a material that grows fast, and there's a lot of straw not too far from here that we can also get a hold of as a material. So those are all huge things. Its sound reduction is excellent, so it's a good separation of space. And it's beautiful. It's very long lasting, 100 years plus easily, a straw bale house, as long as you maintain it. And then you get a group build element that comes into it when it's wall filling time, wall raising time, which is also a plus for us in our community building aspect. So yeah, you can check out, there's photos here of beautiful straw bale structures that you can come check out later or online later. But that's the gist of what we need to get into. The last slide, the next slide, is we have a collection of some of our team that we have gathered and are gathering as the people who we need to make this thing actually happen. So as we have referenced already, there's Chuck Durrett, who lives in Nevada City and designed and built the Nevada City co-housing just over the mountain from us, which we collectively went and visited just not too long ago, and Chuck gave us the tour. Super inspiring. So he's close at hand, and he actually grew up in the county where we are, and so he's excited to help us with this project. And there's a builder in Nevada City too, who we have our sights on, who seems to be the fit for doing this, a straw bale builder specifically. And they work with an architect and a structural engineer in Berkeley who are all about straw bale, who are on here as well. And there's also a developer, this Cadius Partners up in Bozeman, who just helped the Bozeman co-housing get finished. They just finished moving in up in Montana, about 45 unit co-housing, I think. And this developer up there, they got him on board to help them get this project done. And we've been talking to that developer to help us figure out what we need help with. So we are collecting the experts around us to make sure this is legit and world class and gonna pass all inspections. And so that's where we're at. And I guess the last thing I have to say, the thing I should have said up front, that's gonna be the biggest issue for a lot of people, is that we are on the border, up at border town, but we're on the California side of the border. So that's going to be an interesting thing for folk in the Reno area, which is where a lot of our community is, to think about and wrestle with, because that comes with certain ramifications. Income tax, basically. But so the last thing I have on there is a timeline. And our goal right now is to move in 2027. So that working backwards from that means we're building in 2026 and on into 2027, right up until moving in. And therefore we have 2024 and 2025 to get it all together and get the people together and cut and do all the upfront work with engineering, etc., to be ready to do that. And yeah, the last year we've been meeting every week, once a week, and to get to this point and figure out how this looks and how we're going to do this. So that's kind of our everything, except numbers. So I'm going to pass it off to Zach, who's got all the numbers, the real stuff that's going to make it happen.
Yo. I don't know if we actually need to hold a bunch of numbers on a screen up there. Yeah, I'll use it. Nice. Okay, well, it is nice to still feel the heart here, even though we are missing the stuff that feels critical to presenting. As presenters, I have participated in a bunch of music shows and presentations where this kind of stuff happens for the people up on stage, and being in the crowd, I've never felt what I'm feeling today. So yeah, that's nice to have that contrast. My name is Zach. Thanks for having me. I am up here today talking about finance stuff because I have a big, beautiful, geeky background in being in accounting and public accounting. I got my master's degree in accounting, passed all the CPA exams, and got into that whole world and decided that I actually wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so I have since then branched into a few different things, and now am the proud owner of Beloved's Bread, where we serve beautiful breads to our community. And yeah, it's such a gift. So thank you. I really feel that I find myself in a lot of circles where money is a taboo thing, and coming from where I come from, it's the foundation, it's the structure, it's the nuts and bolts of how we make all this stuff work. So I get really excited to talk about it, and am happy to be here with the shell of what it is, where we currently stand, and the landscape that we currently have. So we're going to go through that today, and I think a good place to start is to let you guys know the structure of what it is that we're going to be doing. So the Rosewater Ranch, when you purchase a home, it will be purchased through a condominium style ownership, where you own the home, you're able to resell the home, but you do not own the land underneath your feet through the purchase price of your home. However, you will buy into the LLC for a nominal amount. We will all share a percentage in the LLC ownership, and that LLC is what owns the land and the shared amenities. So this is just a very high level picture of how condominiums work and how we are approaching land ownership and home ownership. So that means that you'll be able to sell your home, and that means that you will be able to leave the LLC, and that there will be value in your LLC ownership and transferability and all of those things. So the stage that we're in now, we have been meeting really excitedly, really hopefully for the past year, as Nate has said, and it's been incredible to really see everybody show up every single week and just get into the nuts and bolts of what it is that we need to do next. And all of that dreaming has got us to the point where we are now, and now we're still dreaming. But now we are in the soft costs of this project, the soft cost stage, which is architectural drawings, which is feasibility site planning, which is engineering, all of the kinds of things that require money to go into those people's pockets to get the system to get our structure, essentially. So where we are at now is starting to design all the things, and that is our first expenditure that we're looking for. That's the first raise, the money raise that we're trying to do through our initial membership fees and through our early investments. We're asking those that are interested in purchasing a home to jump in and help get these soft costs up the ground, up off of the out of unreality into reality. So we have already started with some of that. We've started on our site plan feasibility, and now we are starting to move into soil engineering, structural engineering, and all these kinds of things. So these are soft costs that we're all going to be sharing, spread across the parties. We are looking, so we've been talking to some, as Nate mentioned, we've been talking to a developer, we've been talking to a straw bale builder, as well as looking at condominium developments in Reno. And we have a target range of where we picture the home prices coming in at. And for our 900-ish square foot homes, we're looking at somewhere between $300,000 to $400,000. For our 1,300 square foot home, we're looking between $450,000 to $550,000. And for our bigger home, the 1,600 square foot-ish home, is between $550,000 and $650,000. The moving range here is just a function of, we haven't accepted bids, we know that the labor market moves, we know that materials move, etc. So this pricing that we've looked at, based on all the conversations we've been having with developers, with builders, and with other, looking at other condominium builds in Reno, we feel like we're in a pretty good place with that. As we started to get into some of our infrastructure costs and soft costs, and then starting to spread that and allocate that across the homes, this is where we see ourselves landing. As a reference, the current median household price for sale in Reno, or selling in Reno, is $535,000. And some of the condominiums in downtown Reno, 1 bedroom, 1.5 bath, are selling for between $400,000 to $500,000, depending on where you find yourself in Reno. Granted, that's without 135 acres, that's without a common house, that's without all of the things that we're dreaming up and doing. In the pricing of the home, you are buying into all the things that we share. So we're sharing a common house. So these prices that I mentioned here that includes us building a common house. That includes us building a bathhouse with a sauna, cold tub, hot tub. That includes us putting up a new barn, our carport. So just to say that the pricing that we're talking about comes with much more than just your personal dwelling as a reference point. So our shared construction costs, we've already talked about soft costs. We have our infrastructure, and we have our common spaces. So the infrastructure is each home that gets put up in a suburb has its own septic tank, has its own utilities plug-in, has its own, all the bells and whistles that come with an individual dwelling. And when we get into co-housing, where we start to see a lot of increase in value and benefits for the co-housing participants, is that we are spreading those costs out amongst ourselves. So we are sharing a bigger septic tank. Just to say that this is where we start to see the costs go down because we're sharing these items, which is really tremendous and exciting for us. What is it? The land is in there also. The land is in there also. So the house selling price that we're talking about is including Toto. Everything. Okay, so I'm actually glad for everybody but myself. I'm glad for myself that you guys don't have to look at all these numbers, because looking at numbers on a screen is painful, and explaining numbers on a screen is painful. So up on the screen, and what would have been in the presentation, is an example of what it would look like for you to purchase a home. And so we're starting out with our home sales price, and we have some required investments and membership dues. So we will have some more discussions about this on our website for our onboarding process, but you will jump in, express if you have interest in joining the project, you'll jump in, we'll get you into the LLC, which will have a $2,500 membership fee sign up, which is to get our LLC incorporated, help get some jump starts on our shared soft costs. And then we have early dues. We have 2 early dues, and we have 1 mandatory early investment of $10,000. We also have some optional investments also. So there's also an option that if you are more liquid, if you have some cash in your life and you want to help the project and also get some discounts, then you can jump in and put some money towards the project that is going to be backed off of your home down payment. Because once we start construction, what we're going to need from everybody is a 20% down payment on your home. So through the initial investment, the membership fees, and optional investments, your 20% down payment will be adjusted downwards based on all of those things that you've invested. You guys following that? Yeah. Okay, great. Kayla also mentioned the excitements around all the things that we have to share. For those of you that have been to Rosewater, I think you can relate to the feeling of proximity to Reno, and also the sense of space. And so Rosewater presents a lot of beautiful potential in hosting because it's close to Reno, and yet it has this feeling of being far away when you're there on the land. So our annual community expenses are a reality for us, and we're going to pay for those in one of 2 ways. That's going to be either through membership fees, where you have a monthly membership fee that's covering our different costs, or that we're all kind of sharing throughout the land, or we're going to generate some revenue through the project, which is weddings, educational workshops, small gatherings, these sorts of things. The annual community expenses that we're anticipating is some general building maintenance, somewhere around $7,500 to $10,000 a year, keeping our tools up to shape, land maintenance, overhead, and having one full-time ranch manager or 2 part-time ranch managers, which brings us in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year that we're going to be sharing as a group to keep everything running smoothly and in tip-top shape. So to cover that, we can do that through membership fees, or we can do that through our events. So this is where we're going to start dreaming and collaborating with who comes forward. When we met with Chuck, I don't know if it was mentioned that he had done 55, 60 units, his 55 to 60 different co-housing communities in the United States, and has traveled all throughout Europe and been all through Denmark and all the areas where co-housing is just a way of life. And before he came out, we were in a sense of our own creation, which had its, of course, bottlenecks and ignorance. And he showed up, and it was incredible to have this man's level of clarity, practicality, and directness of what needed to be done and where we're going. And it was infectious. I was in tears when he left and was so grateful for the sense of hope and the sense of relief I felt when he came. And it was just an amazing time to spend with Chuck. But one of the things that was so sweet that he was there talking about, and as a money guy, I was able to really relate to him because he was so about the nuts and bolts and making it affordable and that life is cheaper and all of the things. And so naturally, there is a lot of cost savings in being a lot of living cost savings. So we're going to have shared transportation, people going into town. There's carpooling potential. There's shared tools that we all share. We all don't need a lawnmower. We all don't need our perfect set of power tools. There is reduced childcare. There's reduced elderly care. Kayla's in town. Another mama is able to help with the burgeoning family that might be a thing for us in the future. So there's a lot of community collaboration that starts to drive daily, monthly living expenses down. Some of the anecdotes that are shared from other co-housing communities, anywhere from $200 a month in cost savings all the way up to $2,000 in cost savings, depending on what your monthly lifestyle looks like. We'll be sharing our costs for trash and sewer, water, internet, insurance, and Yeah, so those are all exciting things to keep in mind when you're looking at your monthly living and knowing that it could be a potential for you to drive some of that stuff down. Shared meals in the common house was a really big one for him. As Nate mentioned, they use the metric of how much time is spent in the community house as a barometer for the health of a community. And he was talking on and on and on in a really sweet way about shared meals and how amazing it is to optionally show up and optionally cook for your ranch mates and your co-housing mates, and to the effect also that it's just very cheap and it's really good high quality food. The structure that they do there, just as an anecdote for them, they do 3 meals a week. They have a 25 to 50% participation rate, so 25 to 50% of the ranch mates show up for every dinner. Each household cooks one of those meals throughout the month, or depending on how the timeline works. Each person cooks, and then people show up, and you pay for the cost of the meal. It's anywhere between $5 and $10 for like really world-class food. Because we're cooking for each other, everybody's constantly up in the ante and making really beautiful food. So this was just I think a really sweet anecdote that feels nice to share. What is it? They were 5 days a week. 5 days a week. Yeah, 5 days a week. So yeah, thank you guys for being such eager listeners. And we're gonna have we're gonna do a round table for a bit. I'm gonna let her up, but just to say on money questions, I'm gonna let Cassidy come up. But if there is any money questions, we're gonna do some discussions afterwards. I just imagine there might be some stuff there for you guys. So we're gonna finish up the presentation with Cassidy, who opened up for us, coming back on. So thank you guys so much for listening.
Hello again. So I know we just spent a good amount of time talking about money and numbers, but what we're primarily interested in right now is getting to know those who are interested in being involved in this project, and for y'all to get to know us and to get to know the land as well. So if you are interested, there's a few things you can do to get started. You can head on to our website, which is rosewaterranch.com. And there's a ton of resources and information on there, most of which we've brushed on today, but you can go back and look at all these again on your own time. And on our website, there'll be a tab on the top that says Join Our Community, which you can click on, and then an option that says Steps to Join will pop up, which you can click on as well. And on that page, there's going to be a whole list of our onboarding process. So all the steps that you would be going through if you wanted to become involved in this project and become a resident of the village. And all of the first few steps of that process revolve around familiarizing yourself with us, with our project, and with co-housing in general. And one of those steps, or one of the pieces of one of those steps, is to come out to the ranch for a work day. So we have one on the calendar. It's going to be on Sunday, May 26th, which is next weekend. And it's just an optional one. Like, don't worry if you're not able to come to this one. We're going to have many more in the future. But we thought we should get one on the calendar now, just to have like a next stepping point for anyone who's able to come out and wants to. So like I said, Sunday, May 26th, it's going to be from 3 to 6 p.m. I think we're going to be mainly working in the gardens. We're going to get our cornfield ready to be planted for the summer. So that's kind of a glimpse of what we're going to be working on. And we will, what? Oh, yes, and we will be serving dinner after. It's not going to be a potluck, so don't bring your own food. We want to feed you. So we will be serving dinner after work is done at 6 p.m. And while we all are calling it a work day, we really want to emphasize that it's just an opportunity for us to get to know you and for you to get to know us. So we're welcoming all levels of ability and participation, and if you just want to come and see the land and talk to us, that's also welcome as well. Yeah, so if you are interested, I think there's going to be an RSVP on the website, and there'll be some details on there, like our address and stuff like that. And then if you're not on our email list, you can also join that on our website as well, and that'll keep you up to date on any future events and things going on the ranch. So that's it for me. I'm going to see if anyone else has anything to add before we go and do a Q&A. Thanks, you guys. Moving up.